"Hips, retreat," he said. The words tasted like poison. "Abandon the mission." The Syndicate fleet withdrew. The damaged cruisers limped away. The third cruiser that had fled was already jumping to faster-than-light travel. The human fleet didn't pursue. They held position around Calro 7, protecting, defending. On the surface, the colonists watched the sky. They had been told to stay in shelters during the battle. Now they emerged. Someone pointed upward. "Look!" Debris from destroyed ships burned up in the atmosphere. Streaks of light across the sky. But they weren't bombardment strikes. They were falling pieces of the battle. "We won," Jiwoo said. "We actually won." Daewon looked at the names scrolling across his screen. Ships that had been destroyed. Veterans who had died. Taemin. 2 others he had served with. People who had come to help him and would never go home. "We won," he agreed. "But it cost us." Over the next few days, the remaining veteran ships landed at the colony. There was no celebration. Not really. Too many had died. But there was relief. In gratitude, Bo Young found Daewon in his repair shop. It had been damaged during the ground fighting with Kravor's forces. He was fixing it. Just like he fixed everything. "Hello, old friend," she said. He turned. For a moment, they just looked at each other. 20 years. 2 people who had survived a war together. Then they hugged. "Thank you for coming," Daewon said. "Thank you for calling. I needed to remember who I was. What I fought for." She looked around the shop. "This is what you've been doing? Fixing machines? It's peaceful work. Is it enough?" He thought about that. I thought it was. I wanted to forget the war. Forget the fighting. Just live a quiet life. But you can't forget. None of us can. No, but maybe that's okay. Maybe the point isn't to forget. It's to use what we learned for something good. He gestured to the colony. These people are alive because of what we know. Because we remembered how to fight. That has to mean something. Bo Young nodded. "I'm going back to my old life. But I'm keeping my communicator on. If you call again, I'll come. So will the others. Let's hope I never have to call again." "Hope, but prepare." She smiled. "That's what you always taught us." The veterans departed over the next week. They returned to their scattered lives across the galaxy. But they left something behind. A message that spread through the criminal underworld. Through the alien empires. Through the Galactic Council. The message was simple. Don't mess with humans. Especially human veterans. The Vrek Syndicate never recovered from the defeat at Calro 7. Their reputation was destroyed. Clients stopped hiring them. Territory was lost to rivals. Within a year, the Syndicate collapsed entirely. Kravor survived. He left the Syndicate and disappeared. Some said he became a mercenary. Others said he spent his days trying to understand how one old human had beaten him. No one knew for sure. Yon stayed at the colony for a while. She learned from Daewon. Not just fighting techniques, but the philosophy behind them. Why you fight, when you fight, and when you walk away. Eventually, she left to become something new. Not a bounty hunter chasing money. A protector. Someone who helped colonies like Calro 7 defend themselves. She carried Daewon's lessons with her. Jiwoo stayed. She became the colony's defense coordinator. She trained new settlers. She made sure they would never be unprepared again. The scared girl who had run into a repair shop was gone. In her place was a leader. Velcor returned to the Vrek's homeworld. He wrote a book about the Orion border wars, about what he learned from fighting humans. It became required reading in Vrek's military academies. The lesson was clear. Never underestimate prey. Especially human prey. As for Daewon, he rebuilt his shop. He went back to fixing machines. But he was different now. The colony was different. Everyone knew what he was. What he had done. Children would walk by his shop and whisper, "That's him. That's the veteran." Adults would nod to him with respect. Sometimes they would ask questions. About the war. About fighting. About courage. He answered when he could. He taught when asked. But mostly he just lived his life. A quiet life. A peaceful life. One evening, a young alien child approached him nervously. The child's species were prey animals, small, timid. "Excuse me, sir. Are the stories true? Are you really a warrior?" Daewon smiled gently. "I was a soldier. Long time ago. My mother says you fought apex predators, big scary ones, and you won. I did what I had to do to protect people. The child thought about that. Were you scared? Always. Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do what's right even when you're scared. Could you teach me to be brave? Daewon looked at the small child. So young, so innocent. Being brave isn't about fighting. It's about standing up for what matters, protecting the people you care about, and knowing when not to fight. When should you not fight? Whenever you can solve problems another way. Fighting should always be the last choice, not the first. The child nodded seriously. Thank you, sir. After the child left, Hyan appeared. She was leaving the next morning. That was good advice, just common sense, is it? Most warriors I know think fighting is the answer to everything. Then they're not warriors. They're thugs. There's a difference, he looked at her. You're going to do great things. I can tell. How do you know? Because you ask the right questions. You want to protect people, not hurt them. That's the mark of a true warrior. They sat in comfortable silence. Then Hyan asked one final question. Do you regret it? The fighting? The killing, all of it? Daewon thought for a long time. I regret every life lost, every battle fought, every wound given and received. But I don't regret protecting people who needed protecting. I don't regret standing up to bullies. And I don't regret teaching others to do the same. He looked at the stars. The universe is full of apex predators, species that think they're superior because they're big or strong or have natural weapons. But they're wrong. True strength comes from here. He tapped his head. And here, he tapped his heart. That's what makes humans dangerous. That's what they can never understand. What's that? We don't give up ever. Push us down, we get back up. Hurt us, we heal and come back stronger. Tell us something is impossible, we find a way. That's not just human nature. That's human survival. And it's the most powerful force in the galaxy. Hyan left the next morning. The colony returned to normal life. Ships came and went. Trade continued. People laughed and lived and loved. But everyone remembered. They remembered the day apex predators learned an important lesson. They remembered the old veteran who protected them. They remembered that size and strength don't matter if you have will and determination. Months later, a message arrived at the Galactic Council. It was from the military archives on Earth. An update to a service record. Captain Daewon retired. The update included a note from the Council's security director. Captain Daewon has continued to serve with distinction even in retirement. His actions at Calras 7 prevented a massacre and demonstrated the core values of humanity: loyalty, courage, and the refusal to accept injustice. Recommendation: this veteran has earned his peace. Leave him alone. For everyone's sake. The message was logged and filed, but copies were sent to intelligence agencies across the galaxy. A quiet warning, a reminder. Even the apex beasts knew now. You don't challenge a human veteran. Not if you value your life. Not if you understand what humans become when you threaten what they protect. They are a force like no other. And the galaxy would do well to remember it. The stars looked cold through the viewport of the transport ship. Taemin stood alone in the observation deck, his reflection staring back at him like a ghost. He was 28 years old, though he felt much older. The scars hidden beneath his black uniform told stories he tried not to remember. The ship was taking him to Vrelis Prime, the heart of the empire that owned him. Taemin was human, but he barely remembered what that meant anymore. The Vrelians had taken him from Earth when he was just a boy of 9. They found him in the ruins of a colony that had tried to resist their control. Everyone he knew had died that day. Everyone except him. The Vrelians saw something useful in the terrified child hiding in the rubble. Humans were new to them, strange creatures from a violent little world. They wondered if humans could be weapons. So they took Taemin and others like him. They trained them, broke them, rebuilt them into something efficient and deadly. Now Taemin was what they called a Reaper. He completed contracts for the Empire. 47 contracts, all successful. 47 lives ended because he was very good at his job. The Vrelians were pleased with their investment. Even their own soldiers feared him, this human who moved like a shadow and killed without hesitation. The transport ship landed on Vrelis Prime after 3 days of travel. Taemin gathered his few belongings and stepped onto the platform. The city stretched endlessly in all directions, towers of metal and glass reaching toward the purple sky. Millions of beings lived here, dozens of species all serving the Vrelian Empire in one way or another. A Vrelian officer met him at the landing platform. The alien stood nearly 7 feet tall with gray skin and 4 arms. Its eyes were like black stones, cold and calculating. It did not speak, simply gestured for Taman to follow. He did. He always did. They walked through the Imperial District, past buildings that housed the bureaucracy of conquest. Finally, they entered the Tower of Arbiters, where the Empire's highest judges made decisions about entire worlds. Taman had been here only twice before. Both times had been for special contracts, targets that required his particular skills. The officer led him to a massive door that opened silently. Inside, the chamber was dark except for a single light illuminating a raised platform. On that platform sat High Arbiter Kelvath, one of the most powerful beings in the Empire. The Vrelian's presence filled the room like pressure before a storm. "Reaper Taman," the Arbiter's voice was like stones grinding together. "You have served the Empire well. Your record is without flaw." Taman said nothing. He stood at attention, waiting. Emotion was weakness. Questions were unnecessary. He had learned these lessons in blood and pain. "We have a new contract for you," Kelvath continued. "A human female, Dr. Hana. She operates a research station in the Corvus sector. You will go there. You will kill her. You will destroy all her research. This must be done within 72 hours. The Arbiter touched a control and a hologram appeared in the air. A woman's face looked out at nothing, caught in a moment by some security camera. She looked tired with dark circles under her eyes. Her hair was pulled back simply. She wore the plain clothes of a scientist. She did not look dangerous. "What did she do?" Taman asked. He rarely asked questions, but something felt different about this contract. Kelvath's forearms moved in what might have been irritation. She discovered something she should not have discovered. She asks questions that threaten the Empire's stability. Her research ends or everything we have built begins to crack. Taman studied the hologram. "What kind of research?" "That is not your concern, Reaper. You are a weapon. Weapons do not need to understand. They only need to function." The Arbiter leaned forward, and Taman could see something in those black eyes. Fear. The Empire was afraid of this tired-looking scientist. "You will have full access to a stealth corvette," Kelvath said. "You are authorized to destroy the entire research station if necessary. Leave no evidence. Leave no survivors. Complete this contract and your reward will be substantial. Fail, and you will be terminated." The hologram changed, showing the research station. It was small, orbiting a dying red star far from any major systems. The station looked old, patched together from different modules. Only a small crew could live there. It should be an easy contract, but something bothered Taman. He could not name what it was. Just a feeling, small and quiet, like something buried trying to surface. "Do you accept this contract?" the Arbiter asked. "Yes," Taman answered. What else could he say? He was a weapon. Weapons did not refuse. "Then go. Your ship is waiting in Base 7. You have 72 hours from the moment you arrive in the Corvus sector. Do not fail us, Reaper." Taman bowed slightly and turned to leave. As he walked through the dark chamber toward the door, he heard Kelvath speak one more time so quietly he almost missed it. "Humans are so beautifully broken, so easy to aim at each other." The door closed behind him. Taman walked through the corridors of the tower, heading toward the landing bays. Other beings moved aside when they saw him coming. They knew what the black uniform meant. They knew what he was. In Base 7, the stealth corvette waited. It was a beautiful ship, all smooth lines and hidden weapons. Taman ran through the pre-flight checks automatically, his hands moving without thought. He had flown dozens of different ships. They all became the same after a while. As the corvette lifted off and accelerated toward the darkness between stars, Taman looked at the hologram of Dr. Hana one more time. He tried to see what made her so dangerous that the Empire wanted her dead within 3 days. She just looked like a person, tired and human and small against the weight of the galaxy. He closed the hologram and set course for the Corvus sector. It would take 2 days to reach the research station. 2 days to think about nothing, to be nothing but a weapon traveling toward its target. But something was wrong. As Taman sat alone in the darkness of the ship, he felt something he had not felt in many years. A crack in the wall he had built inside himself. A memory trying to surface. A girl's voice singing something soft and sad. A sister, maybe. Someone who had loved him before the Empire taught him that love was weakness. He pushed the memory away. He was a weapon. He had a contract. In 72 hours, Dr. Hana would be dead, and he would return to Vrelis Prime for his next assignment. That was how it always went. That was how it had to be. The Corvette flew on through the empty dark, carrying death toward a research station where a tired scientist was asking dangerous questions about hope. The research station looked like a dying insect against the red glow of the ancient star. Taman brought his Corvette close, using the star's radiation to hide his approach. The station's sensors were old and weak. They did not see him coming. He docked on the station's lower maintenance bay, a section designed for supply ships. The airlock opened with a hiss. Taman stepped into the cold metal corridor, his weapon drawn, his senses sharp. He wore no armor, just the black suit that moved with him like a second skin. Armor made noise. Armor slowed you down. The station was quiet. Taman accessed the computer system through a wall terminal, his fingers moving quickly across the controls. 12 people lived here according to the crew manifest. Most were in their quarters, sleeping through the station's artificial night. 2 were on duty in the control room. Dr. Hana was in Laboratory 3 alone. He moved through the corridors like smoke. The security cameras saw nothing. He had disabled them with a virus uploaded during his approach. The automated defenses went dark with a few keystrokes. The Vrelians had taught him well. They had given him every tool needed to kill efficiently. Taman passed a window and stopped for just a moment. Outside, the dying star burned its last fuel, bleeding red light across the darkness. He wondered what it felt like to be a star. To burn so bright for so long, then to fade and die with no one caring. He pushed the thought away and kept moving. Laboratory 3 was at the station's core, surrounded by living quarters and storage modules. Taman could hear the hum of machines through the walls. He checked his weapon one more time, then opened the door. The laboratory was large, filled with equipment and holographic displays. Data floated in the air like schools of luminous fish. In the center of it all stood Dr. Hana, exactly as she had looked in the hologram. Tired, human, small. She did not turn around when he entered. "You're early," she said quietly. "I calculated 72 hours from the moment they decided. You made it in 58. Taman raised his weapon, aiming at her back. "Turn around," she did. Her eyes met his without fear, without pleading. She looked at him the way a scientist might look at an interesting specimen. "You're human," she said. "Of course they sent one of us. They always do." "Get away from the computers," Taman ordered. Hana stepped away from the displays, her hands visible and empty. "What's your name? Or did they take that from you too? It doesn't matter. It matters to me. I'd like to know the name of the person who kills me." She moved slowly to a chair and sat down as if she was tired of standing. "I'm Hana, but you already know that." Taman kept his weapon trained on her. "You have research that threatens the Empire. I'm here to end that threat. By ending me." Hana nodded slowly. "Yes, that's their solution to everything, isn't it? Someone asks uncomfortable questions, someone dies. Simple, clean, efficient. What did you discover?" Taman found himself asking. He should not care. He should just complete the contract and leave. But the crack inside him was growing wider. Hana studied him for a long moment. Then she gestured to the holographic displays. "May I show you? It won't change what happens here, but I'd like someone to understand before the end." Taman nodded slightly. Hana stood and moved to the controls. The displays changed, filling with images and data. Genetic sequences. Brain scans. Statistical models. "I study what makes us human," Hana said. "What makes any species what they are." The Vrelians wanted me to find ways to improve their neural compliance technology, the implants they use to control subject populations. Make them more efficient, they said. I was supposed to help them build better chains. She pulled up an image of a human brain, highlighted in blues and reds. But I found something else instead. Humans have a genetic marker, something unique to our species. The Vrelians don't have it. Most species don't. This marker creates resistance to neural compliance. Taman lowered his weapon slightly. "What kind of resistance?" "Complete resistance if activated properly." Hana's voice grew stronger, more alive. "The compliance implants work by suppressing certain brain functions. They make it painful to disobey, impossible to think certain thoughts. But this marker, when activated, makes the implants ineffective. The pain stops. The control breaks." She pulled up more data, images of test subjects, charts showing neural activity. I tested it on myself first. I had compliance conditioning when I was younger, like most humans in Vrelian space. 3 months ago, I activated my marker. The conditioning just stopped working. I could think freely for the first time in years. Taman felt something cold move through him. How many humans have this marker? All of us. Every single human. We're born with it. The Vrelians just didn't know to look for it. Hana turned to face him fully. But here's what really scares them. The activation can spread. If one activated human spends time near others, something transfers. Proximity activation. I don't fully understand it yet, but I've documented 17 cases in my research team alone. The weapon felt heavy in Taman's hand. That's why they want you dead. That's why they want all of this dead. To research the data, me, anyone who knows. Hana's eyes were sad but steady. If this information spreads, if humans across the Empire learn they can break free, the whole system collapses. Billions of people suddenly able to think for themselves again. The Vrelians can't allow that. Taman stood silent. Inside him, the crack was becoming a chasm. Memories pushed through, things he had locked away. A sister's face. A mother's voice. A father teaching him to throw a ball under a yellow sun. All of it buried under years of conditioning and training. You were conditioned too, Hana said softly. I can see it in how you stand, how you speak. They took a child and made him into this. She gestured at him, at the weapon, at the black uniform. But you're still in there. I can see you fighting to stay buried. Stop talking. Taman's voice was rougher than he intended. I won't beg you to spare me, Hana continued, but I will tell you this. If you kill me, you prove them right. You prove that humans can be turned into weapons and aimed at each other. You prove that we're just tools to be used and broken. She walked closer, stopping just a few feet away. Taman could kill her easily from this distance, one shot. Contract complete. But if you don't kill me, Hana said, if you choose something different, you prove them wrong. You prove that conditioning can break. That we're more than what they made us. I've killed 47 people for the Empire, Taman said. His weapon shook slightly in his hand. 47 contracts. If I stop now, all of them died for nothing. They died because you had no choice. You have a choice now. Taman looked at this tired scientist who should have been terrified but wasn't, who looked at him and saw a person instead of a weapon. The crack inside him split completely open. Memories flooded through. A sister named Minji who sang to him when he was scared. Parents who laughed and held him. A life before pain and training and death. He lowered his weapon. We need to leave, he said. Both of us. Right now, Hana's eyes widened. What? I disabled the station's security, but there's a Vrelian strike team 6 hours behind me. Their insurance in case I fail. They'll kill everyone here and destroy the station. Taman moved to the computer terminals. Grab your critical data. Everything you can carry. We have maybe 15 minutes before they arrive. Why are you doing this? Hana asked, but she was already moving, pulling data cores from the terminals. Because you're right, Taman said. And because I'm tired of being a weapon. The station's alarm suddenly screamed to life. Red lights flashed in the corridors. A cold voice echoed through the speakers. Research Station Prometheus. This is Vrelian Strike Team Vex. Surrender all personnel for processing. Resistance will be met with termination. Taman looked at Hana. They're early. We run now, they ran. Behind them, the sound of breaching charges echoed through the dying station. Ahead, somewhere in the dark, lay a choice Taman had never known he could make. The choice to be human again. The maintenance tunnels smelled like old metal and recycled air. Taman led the way through the narrow passages, one hand holding his weapon, the other pulling Hana along. Behind them, the sounds of the Vrelian strike team echoed through the station. Boots on metal, orders being shouted, the systematic sweep of professional killers. Hana clutched a bag filled with data cores against her chest. They're between us and the main docking bays, she said, breathing hard. I know. We're not going to the main bays. Taman stopped at a junction, listened, then continued left. There's an emergency shuttle on the lower ring. Old supply model, barely functional, but it'll fly. How do you know about that? I read every file on this station before I arrived, including the ones marked as deleted. He glanced back at her. I'm thorough. An explosion rocked the station. The lights flickered and died, replaced by emergency red lighting. Taman's enhanced vision barely needed it. The Vrelians had taught him to see in the dark. They had taught him to be dangerous in every environment. Now he would use those skills against them. They reached a sealed hatch. Taman forced it open with a small plasma torch from his kit. Beyond was a small chamber with a single shuttle attached. The shuttle looked old, covered in patches and repairs. But the engines were warm. Taman had activated them remotely during his initial approach, preparing an escape route he never thought he would need. "Get in," he told Hana. "Strap yourself into the co-pilot seat and don't touch anything." She climbed through the narrow airlock while Taman set charges on the hatch. Small ones, just enough to seal it after they launched. Every second of delay mattered now. Inside the shuttle, Taman moved through the startup sequence with practiced speed. The engines whined to life. The docking clamps released. Through the viewport, he could see the dying red star in the darkness beyond. "They're cutting through the hatch," Hana said, pointing at the door. Bright light showed where plasma torches worked on the metal. Taman launched the shuttle. It tore away from the station just as the hatch exploded inward. Through the rear cameras, he saw Vrelian soldiers in heavy armor pouring into the chamber, their weapons raised but useless. The shuttle was already gone. "They'll follow us," Hana said. "I know." Taman pushed the engines harder, accelerating toward the star. "My Corvette is still docked on the station. They'll use it to chase us." "Then why are we flying toward a star?" "Because they think like soldiers. They'll expect me to run away from danger." Taman adjusted their course, bringing the shuttle closer to the star's burning surface. "We're going to use the star's corona to hide our escape vector." The shuttle shook as they entered the outer layers of the star's atmosphere. Heat warnings flashed across every screen. The hull temperature climbed steadily. Hana gripped her seat, her knuckles white. Taman watched his instruments carefully. Too close and they would burn. Too far and the pursuing ships would see them. He found the narrow line between death and detection and flew it perfectly. Behind them, his Corvette and 2 Vrelian assault ships launched from the station. They spread out, searching for the shuttle's energy signature, but the star's radiation was too strong. The shuttle was invisible, a small metal shadow against an ocean of fire. Taman waited. Every second in the corona was dangerous. The hull temperature was approaching critical levels. But the Vrelian ships were moving away, searching the wrong areas, convinced their prey had fled in a more logical direction. When the enemy ships were far enough away, Taman dove deeper into the corona, then slingshot around the star's gravity well. The maneuver was dangerous, stupid even, but it worked. The shuttle emerged on the opposite side of the star, hidden and moving fast on a vector that no one would expect. Taman set course for the nearest neutral system, a lawless sector called the Drift. It would take 3 days to reach it. 3 days with a woman he was supposed to kill, running from an empire that had made him what he was. As the adrenaline faded, Hana spoke quietly. "You saved my life." "I made a choice," Taman said, his hands steady on the controls. "Maybe the first real choice I've made in 19 years. What happens now?" "Now they hunt us, both of us. I'm a traitor to the Empire. They'll send everything they have." He looked at her. "Your research, can you still transmit it?" Hana checked her data cores. "I set up a hidden relay before you arrived. It's designed to broadcast the activation sequence to human resistance cells across Vrelian space. It'll trigger automatically in 40 hours unless I stop it." "Don't stop it," Taman said. "If I don't, the Empire will know the information is spreading. They'll come after everyone who has it. Thousands of people will be in danger. Thousands of people will have a chance to be free. That's worth the danger." Taman's voice was firm. "Besides, they're already coming after us. Might as well make it mean something." They flew in silence for a while. The stars moved slowly past the viewport, cold and distant. Taman found himself thinking about his sister Minji. She would be 26 now if she was still alive. Had the Vrelians taken her too? Conditioned her? Or had she died in the colony raid? Buried with their parents in the ruins? "Tell me your name," Hana said. "Your real name." "Taman." "My name is Taman. It's a good name." She smiled slightly. "Better than Reaper." "I've done terrible things, Hana. 47 people are dead because of me. 47 lives ended because I was good at following orders." His hands tightened on the controls. "Choosing differently now doesn't erase that." "No, it doesn't," Hana agreed. "But it means those deaths won't be for nothing. If we can free even a fraction of the humans in Vrelian space. If your choice today leads to others making similar choices, then maybe all of it leads somewhere better." "That's optimistic. I'm a scientist. We're trained to hope that understanding leads to change." She looked out at the stars. Besides, humans are good at hope, even when we shouldn't be. Maybe that's what the marker really is. Not just genetic resistance, but the capacity to believe things can be different. The shuttle's computer beeped. A message was coming through, using Vrelian military frequencies. Taman almost ignored it, then decided to listen. The voice that came through was cold and sharp. Reaper Taman, this is High Arbiter Kelvath. You have committed treason against the Empire. You have broken your contract. The penalty is death. Taman said nothing. We know where you're going, Kelvath continued. We know every system within your fuel range. There is nowhere in this galaxy you can hide. We will find you. We will kill you both, and we will erase every trace of the human woman's research. The message paused. Then Kelvath spoke again, and this time there was something new in the voice. Anger, fear. You were our perfect weapon, Taman. You proved that humans could be controlled, shaped, aimed. Now you've thrown all of that away for what? Sentiment? Loyalty to your own kind? The Arbiter's voice dripped with contempt. You're a failure and a fool. We will correct our mistake. We will make better weapons from better materials. Humans will learn their place, the message ended. Silence filled the shuttle. Hana looked at Taman. They're scared. Really scared. Good, Taman said. They should be. Because I'm not their weapon anymore, and soon neither will anyone else be. The shuttle flew on through the dark. Behind them, the Vrelian Empire mobilized its forces. Ahead, somewhere in the lawless drift between stars, lay uncertain freedom and dangerous hope. Taman checked the hidden relay's countdown. 38 hours until Hana's research broadcast to every corner of human space. 38 hours until everything changed. He allowed himself a small smile. For the first time in 19 years, he wasn't moving toward death. He was moving toward something else, something he couldn't quite name yet. Maybe it was called being human. Maybe it was called being free. Juno Station hung in the darkness like a broken crown. It was built from the salvaged remains of a dozen different ships, welded together by desperate people who needed a place beyond imperial law. Smugglers, refugees, criminals, and dreamers all mixed together here. No government claimed it. No empire controlled it. It was the perfect place to disappear. Taman docked their shuttle in one of the outer bays, paying the docking fee with credits he had stolen from Vrelian accounts. The station master asked no questions. That was the first rule of Juno Station. Don't ask, don't tell, don't care. He and Hana stepped into the crowded corridors. Dozens of species moved past them, speaking 100 different languages. The air smelled like engine oil and recycled food and too many bodies in too small a space. Music drifted from distant bars. Someone was shouting about spare parts. A child ran past laughing at some private joke. It was loud and chaotic and completely unlike the sterile order of Vrelian space. Taman found he didn't hate it. We need transportation, Hana said quietly. The shuttle won't get us far enough. The Resistance territory is 3 more jumps from here. And we need allies. Taman scanned the crowd, his training automatically marking threats and exits. The Empire won't stop with just us. If your research spreads, they'll hit every human resistance cell they can find. They found a bar called the Broken Compass, recommended by another refugee as a place where certain people could be found. Inside, the lighting was low and the tables were full. Taman's hand stayed near his weapon as they moved through the crowd. At a corner table sat 3 humans and 1 Vrelian. The human in the center was older, maybe 50, with gray in his hair and scars on his hands. He looked up as Taman and Hana approached, his eyes sharp and calculating. You're Taman, the man said. It wasn't a question. The Reaper. You're either very brave or very stupid to show your face here. The Empire's offering a fortune for your head. Then collect it, Taman said evenly. The man laughed. Sit down. I'm Deho. I run guns to resistance cells when I'm not running from Imperial patrols. These are my crew. Yuna, my medic. Chihun, my engineer. And Sola, who keeps us from getting hacked by every wannabe pirate with a computer. Yuna was a woman in her 30s with quick eyes and a medical bag never far from her side. Chihun was the Vrelian, which surprised Taman. The alien sat quietly, watching everyone with an expression that was hard to read. Sola looked barely 18, thin and intense, her fingers constantly moving like she was typing on invisible keys. We know who she is too, Deho continued, nodding at Hana. Dr. Hana, who made the Vrelians so scared they're burning down their own systems looking for her. Word travels fast in the drift. Hana set her bag on the table. Then you know what I'm carrying. The activation sequence. Proof that humans can break free from compliance conditioning. I need to get this to Resistance leadership. Why should we help you? Yuna asked. No offense, but traveling with you two is suicide. The Empire wants you dead badly enough to offer rewards that would set us up for life. Because what she's carrying can free millions, Taemin said, including you, all of you. Jihoon spoke for the first time, his voice carrying the musical quality of Vrelian speech. I defected from the Imperial Navy 2 years ago. I've seen what the Empire does to species it conquers. The compliance conditioning, the forced labor, the casual cruelty. If this human has found a way to break that control, I want to help spread it. Daeho studied them both for a long moment. Then he sighed. I'm going to regret this. But yes, we'll help. My ship can make the jump to Resistance space. It'll be tight and uncomfortable, but we'll get you there. What's the catch? Taemin asked. The catch is you train my crew. You're the famous Reaper, trained by the best Vrelian killers in the galaxy. If we're going to survive what's coming, we need to be better than we are. Daeho's expression was serious. And you, Doctor, keep working on that research. If you can make the activation sequence more efficient, do it. Every freed human is another soldier against the Empire. They shook hands on it. Taemin felt strange making agreements like this, as equals rather than as a weapon receiving orders. But he was learning to live with strange feelings. Over the next week, they prepared. Taemin taught Daeho's crew combat techniques, shared Vrelian tactical knowledge, showed them how to think like the enemy. Yuna helped him process the psychological damage of his conditioning, talking through the memories that surfaced now that his walls were crumbling. Hana worked day and night on her research, refining the activation sequence. Sola helped her, the young hacker proving brilliant at finding ways to hide and spread the data across multiple networks. It was almost peaceful. Almost normal. Then the message came. Sola brought it to them, her face pale. You need to see this. It's all over the Resistance networks. The message was a video. It showed a Vrelian compliance center on a planet called Drekon 4. Hundreds of humans being processed through the conditioning, their minds broken and rebuilt. The camera focused on one woman in particular, strapped to a chair, electrodes attached to her head. Taemin's heart stopped. He knew that face, Minji, he whispered. You know her? Anna asked gently. My sister. I thought she was dead. Taemin couldn't look away from the screen. Minji looked older, hollow, nothing like the girl who used to sing to him. This is a trap. They're using her to draw me out. Obviously, Daeho said, which means we ignore it and continue with the plan. I can't leave her there. You can and you will. One person isn't worth risking everything we're trying to build. Daeho's voice was hard. I'm sorry about your sister, but this is war. We make hard choices. Taemin stood up, his chair falling backward. Then I go alone. Give me a ship. I'll get her and meet you at the Resistance coordinates. That's suicide, Yuna said. Drakon 4 is heavily guarded. You'll never make it out. I have to try. She's my sister. She's the reason I remember what being human means. Taemin looked at Hana. You understand, don't you? Hana stood as well. I do. Which is why I'm coming with you. No, you're too important. Your research is already uploaded to 17 different networks. Sola made sure of that. Hana's expression was determined. You saved my life, Taemin. Let me help save your sister. Jihoon stood next. I know the security systems on Drakon 4. I helped install them when I was with the Imperial Navy. You'll need my knowledge, Sola joined them. And you'll need me to hack those systems once we're inside. Daeho looked at his crew, then at Taemin. He sighed deeply. Everyone's gone crazy, fine, we all go. But we do this smart, not desperate. We plan every step. We prepare for every contingency. And if it looks like a total loss, we abort and run. Agreed. Agreed, Taemin said. They spent 3 days planning the raid. Jihoon provided detailed layouts of the compliance center. Sola found security vulnerabilities. Yuna prepared medical equipment for the trauma Minji would have suffered. Hana worked on a portable version of the activation sequence, something that could work quickly to break Minji's conditioning. On the 4th day, they loaded into Daeho's ship and jumped toward Drakon 4. As they traveled, Taemin found himself sitting with Hana in the cargo hold. Thank you, he said quietly. For all of this. You didn't have to come. Yes, I did. Hana looked at him. You chose to save me when you could have just followed orders. That choice mattered. It changed everything. Now we choose to save your sister. That matters too. What if we fail? Then we fail trying to do something good. That's still better than succeeding at something terrible. She smiled. Besides, I told you, humans are good at hope even when we shouldn't be. The ship dropped out of jump space near Dracon 4. The planet hung below them, blue and green and crawling with Imperial installations. Somewhere down there, Minji was waiting. Somewhere down there, the Empire was ready to spring its trap. Taman checked his weapons one last time. He wasn't a weapon anymore. He was a brother trying to save his sister. That made all the difference. The Compliance Center on Dracon 4 looked like a prison designed by someone who hated hope. Gray walls, narrow windows, guard towers at every corner. Thousands of people were processed here every month, their minds broken and reshaped to serve the Empire without question. Taman crouched in the shadows outside the facility's east wall, watching the patrol patterns. Beside him, Ji-hoon studied the security systems through a portable scanner. The rest of the team waited in the transport ship, hidden in a canyon 2 kilometers away. 3-minute gap between patrols, Taman whispered. Same as you predicted. The Empire is predictable. They believe their systems are perfect, so they never change them. Ji-hoon's forearms moved across the scanner. I found the security hub. If Sola can reach it, she can shut down the cameras and alarms. They moved during the next patrol gap, crossing the open ground to the facility wall. Taman used a plasma cutter to open a hole in the maintenance duct. It was barely large enough for a human to crawl through. For Ji-hoon, it was impossible. I'll guide you from here, the Vrelian said, passing Taman a communicator. Yuna and Daeho are ready to provide backup if needed. Taman squeezed through the duct with Hana and Sola following close behind. The metal tunnel was hot and cramped. They crawled for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. Finally, they emerged into a service corridor. Sola immediately moved to a computer terminal. Her fingers flew across the controls, lines of code reflecting in her eyes. I'm in. Routing camera feeds to a loop. You have 10 minutes before someone notices. They moved quickly through the facility. Ji-hoon's knowledge guided them around guard stations and through maintenance passages. Twice they heard footsteps and pressed themselves into alcoves, barely breathing as Vrelian soldiers passed within meters. The conditioning chambers were in the facility's center, a cluster of rooms where mines were unmade and rebuilt. Taman's heart pounded as they approached. Through a window in one door, he saw rows of chairs, each holding a human strapped down with electrodes attached to their heads. In the third chair sat Minji. Taman wanted to burst through the door immediately, but Hana grabbed his arm, holding him back. Wait, let me check for guards. She was right. He was thinking with his heart instead of his training. He forced himself to be calm, to breathe, to remember everything the Vrelians had taught him about patience and timing. Sola worked on the door lock. It opened with a soft click. Inside, the room hummed with machines and the low sound of conditioning programs playing through speakers. The humans in the chairs stared at nothing, their minds elsewhere, trapped in whatever reality the Empire had built for them. Taman moved to Minji's chair. She didn't react as he approached. Her eyes were open but empty, like she was looking through him at something only she could see. He began removing the electrodes carefully, his hand shaking. Minji, he whispered. It's me. It's Taman. I'm here. I'm going to get you out. Nothing. No recognition. No response. Hana moved beside him, pulling out a device from her bag. This is the portable activation sequence. I've never tested it under these conditions, but theoretically it should work. It'll break the conditioning. Will it hurt her? Yes, breaking conditioning always hurts. But the alternative is leaving her like this. Hana's voice was gentle. She'll need you to be strong for her. Taman nodded. Hana attached the device to Minji's temple and activated it. The device hummed, sending patterns of neural stimulation into Minji's brain. At first, nothing happened. Then Minji's body went rigid. Her eyes squeezed shut. A sound came from her throat, something between a gasp and a scream. It's working, Hana said, monitoring readings on the device. The compliance programming is breaking down. Her natural neural patterns are reasserting. Minji's eyes opened. For a moment, they were still empty. Then something changed. Focus returned. Awareness. She looked at Taman, really looked at him, and tears began streaming down her face. Taman? Her voice was rough, like she hadn't used it in years. Is it really you? It's me. I'm here. I'm so sorry it took so long. He unstrapped her from the chair, helping her stand. She was weak, stumbling, but alive and aware. "I thought you were dead," Minji whispered. "They told me everyone was dead. They told me so many things, and I believed all of it, and I couldn't remember what was real. You're real. I'm real. And we're leaving." Taman held her as she leaned against him. "Can you walk?" "I'll try." Sola's voice came through the communicator, urgent and scared. "We have a problem. Someone noticed the camera loop. Guards are converging on your position. You have maybe 2 minutes." "We need to move now," Hana said, helping support Minji's other side. They ran. Behind them, alarms began to scream. Red lights flooded the corridors. Vrelian soldiers appeared at intersections, weapons raised. Taman returned fire, his shots precise and deadly. He was using the skills the Empire taught him, but now he was using them to protect instead of to kill for them. They reached the service corridor, but it was blocked. 6 guards in heavy armor, plasma rifles charged and ready. "Drop your weapons," the lead guard commanded. "You're surrounded. There's no escape." Taman calculated angles and odds. They couldn't win this fight. There were too many guards, too much firepower. Minji could barely stand. Hana and Sola weren't combat trained. He was about to tell them to surrender when something extraordinary happened. The other humans in the conditioning chambers, freed by Minji's removal, began to wake up. One by one, they pulled off their own electrodes. They stood from their chairs, and something passed between them. Something invisible but powerful, the activation spreading, just as Hana had predicted. The humans walked out of the chambers. They saw the guards. They saw Taman and his group cornered, and they attacked. It wasn't organized. It wasn't trained. But it was 50 humans against 6 Relian guards, and the humans had nothing left to lose. They swarmed the guards, pulling them down through sheer numbers and desperate strength. "Go!" one of them shouted at Taman. "Get out! Tell everyone what you found here." They ran through the chaos, through the facility, past guards who were suddenly dealing with a full-scale uprising. Outside, they could hear explosions. Deho and Yuna were providing covering fire from the transport ship, drawing attention away from their escape route. They reached the hole in the wall and crawled through. Jihoon was waiting, along with a small vehicle. They piled in and raced toward the canyon where the ship waited. Behind them, the compliance center was in flames. The uprising was spreading. Someone had opened the main detention areas, releasing hundreds more conditioned humans. The activation sequence was jumping from person to person, breaking chains faster than the guards could respond. They reached the ship and launched immediately. As they climbed into orbit, Taman looked back at the facility. Small figures were streaming out of it, running in every direction, free for the first time in years. "What have we started?" he asked quietly. "A revolution," Hana said. She was smiling through tears. "The activation is spreading faster than I thought possible. Every freed human becomes a vector for freedom. It's exponential now, unstoppable." Over the next hours, as they jumped away from Dracon 4, reports began flooding in. Compliance centers across 12 systems were experiencing uprisings. Conditioned humans were breaking free and spreading the activation to others. Imperial forces were overwhelmed, unable to contain the sudden wave of resistance. In Deho's ship, Minji sat wrapped in a blanket, slowly remembering herself. Taman stayed beside her, holding her hand, telling her stories about their childhood to help her remember. "I sang to you," Minji said softly, "when you were scared. I remember that now. There was a song Mom taught us. About stars," Taman said. "About light in the darkness." "Yes." Minji smiled, the first real smile since her rescue. "Can you sing it with me?" They sang together, their voices rough and uncertain but growing stronger. Yuna joined in, then Hana. Soon everyone was singing this simple song about hope and light, and somehow it felt like the most important thing they had ever done. 3 weeks later, the news reached them. The Vrelian Empire had sued for peace. The sudden loss of their compliant labor force had crippled their economy. The uprisings continued to spread, not just among humans but among other species who witnessed human resistance and found their own courage. The empire wasn't destroyed, but its absolute control was broken. Negotiations began for the creation of free zones, territories where species could govern themselves. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even close to perfect. But it was different. It was possible. Taman stood on the observation deck of a liberated human colony. watching the sunset paint the sky in colors he had almost forgotten. Beside him, Hana looked at data reports, tracking the spread of activated humans across known space. Minji was somewhere behind them, laughing with Sola about something Taemin couldn't hear. "Do you regret it?" Hana asked. "Walking away from your old life? You were powerful in the Empire, safe in a way." "I was a weapon," Taemin said. "Now I'm a person. That's worth any amount of safety. What will you do now?" "The Resistance wants you to train their forces. They're calling you a hero. I'm not a hero. I just made one choice, then another, then another. Each one a little more human than the last." He looked at her. "What about you? You could write your own ticket now. Lead research programs, teach at universities. I think I'll keep doing what I'm doing. There are still millions of conditioned people out there. They need help breaking free, help healing afterward. That's work that matters," she smiled. "Besides, someone needs to make sure you don't forget you're human. You still have a tendency to stand too still and analyze everything like a threat." He laughed. Actually laughed, something he couldn't remember doing in years. "I'm working on it." A child ran past them, chasing a ball across the observation deck. The child's parents followed, smiling and calling gentle warnings. Normal life continuing despite everything. Taemin had killed 47 people for the Empire. That would never go away. Those deaths would always be part of him. But maybe, just maybe, the lives he helped save now could balance the scales. Not erase the past, but build something better from it. "Hey," Minji called from behind them. "We're starting a bonfire on the beach. Everyone's coming. You two going to stand there being dramatic, or are you going to join us?" Taemin looked at Hana. She looked back. They both smiled. "We're coming," Taemin called back. They walked together toward the sound of laughter and music. Behind them, the sun set on what had been. Ahead, the stars began to emerge. Bright against the darkness, each one a small point of light that refused to surrender to the black. Humans were like those stars, Taemin thought. Small and fragile, but burning with something the Empire could never understand. Hope, defiance, the stubborn refusal to stay broken. They had ordered an apex predator to slay her. He had chosen to protect her instead. And that one choice had broken an empire. Not bad for a weapon who learned to be human again.